everybody, Stephanie here, and this is my presentation on technology integration barrier model, the first order and second order barriers. So after a couple semesters together, I would hope that everybody knows who I am, but if you don't, my name is Stephanie Galvan Russell. I am a librarian in Austin, Texas, and I consider myself a librarian, a reader, a student, and a napper. And this presentation will summarize information from the readings and explain technology integration barriers as both first order, second order, and their relationships. So first, technology integration barriers are defined as barriers are the extrinsic and intrinsic factors that affect a teacher's innovation implementation efforts. And that was according to the Ertmer article. And according to Hugh and Brush, there are 6 main categories of these barriers: resources, knowledge and skills, the institution, attitudes and beliefs, assessment, and subject culture. So, first order barriers they're described as being the extrinsic factors to teachers and include a lack of access to computers and software. They also include an insufficient time to plan instruction and an inadequate technical and administrative support. So, these are the things that the teachers cannot control. So, things like not having access to enough computers for their classes, not having enough time to plan, not having support from their admin, or they just haven't been trained enough in how they should be using the technology in their classroom. So these are things, again, that are out of their control. And first order barriers often influence teachers' decision to use the technology by discouraging them from even trying to start or to continue. So these are a lot of the things that the teachers will say, why am I even going to try this when I don't know how to use it? Or we haven't had a training on how to do this, so how am I supposed to start doing this with my students? Or I don't have enough time to plan how to use the technology in my classroom, so I'm just not going to. So it's things out of their control that discourage them from the beginning. For examples, again, equipment, time, training, and support. But these barriers are really easy to eliminate, so schools can easily make a decision to buy more computers, give teachers a half day or maybe an extra class period to plan. They can buy training, and administrators can very easily come in and say, "Hey, how can we help?" But some examples that were included in the Ertner article was that teachers don't even try to use the technology because there isn't enough for their entire class. So one teacher said that there was only one computer for a class of 23 students. There was another teacher who just received grants or donations of both new and old computers, and he used those to overcome the lack of computers. So he didn't let that stop him, but it was noted that they were using different software. The students were using it to see different things. So I would assume if this happened in a classroom now, it would really be evident which computers were old and outdated because so many computers are much faster than the older computers. I wanted to include these quotes because I thought they were really, really important to what we were talking about. So the first one, when asked to describe the barrier that most significantly impacts integration, they may quickly recite a whole range of problems. So the teachers are saying that there's a whole laundry list of concerns, and these laundry lists illustrate the frustration that teachers feel often at the start of the process when the existence of so many first order barriers seem overwhelming. So I thought it was really important to include this quote because while it is from 1999, even now in 2022, teachers are facing the same problems. They're having so many things that are out of their control that they can't implement doing things into the classroom. For example, COVID-19, some students aren't in their classroom. Some students are virtual. Some students they haven't seen in 2 years. Constant absences, scared for themselves. Some students don't have Wi-Fi at home. Just so many things now that I can't imagine the laundry list that teachers have now compared to the laundry list in 1999. And then I wanted to include this one. Researchers for the Apple Classrooms of Tomorrow noted how the reduction or elimination of first order barriers allowed second order barriers or issues to surface. So once schools had completely eliminated those first order barriers, so they got the teachers the time, they got them training, they gave them more computers for their classrooms. They got them the resources that they needed. Then those second order barriers that I'm about to get into what they are came to not fruition, but they came to light. So they were more evident. And I put this arrow here because this is kind of like a segue on how we went from the first order barriers and how those now are going to affect those second order barriers. So, second order barriers are intrinsic factors to teaching and include belief about teaching, beliefs about computers, established classroom practices, and unwillingness to change. And I wanted to add a few more other things that I thought were interesting in here. So, Ertmer also said that they are barriers that interfere with or impede fundamental change, and also said these barriers are typically rooted in teachers' underlying beliefs about teaching and learning and may not be immediately apparent to others or even to the teachers themselves. This really makes me think about teachers that I've worked with at other schools who are getting ready to retire, veteran teachers who have been in this for 20, 30 years, teachers who are very, very hard to change, who are set in their ways, who say, I've been teaching this way for so many years, everything's been going well so far, like, why do I need to change? And I think that is a really important barrier to bring up because I have been in education for 10 years, but teachers who have I still consider myself a new teacher, and teachers who I think consider themselves new teachers or, baby teachers, if you will, um, or teachers who are just still learning and continuously learn and try to grow their own professional development so that they can be better teachers. These are the teachers who are not going to let these second order barriers happen. Those are the teachers who are going to say, look at these neat things I can do with my classroom. Look at how I can empower my students with these tools. And they're going to be willing to change. But it's usually the older teachers who don't want to change. And I think that's where a lot of these problems come from. So, I also thought it was important to include that these barriers often are thought to cause more difficulties than first order barriers. This may be because they are less tangible than first order barriers, but also because they are more personal and more deeply ingrained. Ritchie and Weberg noted that traditional perceptions of what teaching, learning, and knowledge should look like are major limiting factors to integrating technology. So, this is basically saying that when teachers are saying older teachers or teachers who don't want to change or don't want to start integrating technology or saying this isn't what school looked like when I was in school, this isn't how it's always been. Why do we need to change? And because these are so much harder to change, so it's not as easy to say, hey, here's 30 new computers for your classroom, or here's a new training. Because these teachers already have these thoughts in their heads, they're going to be more skeptic and more hesitant to try these new things. And these are why these are so much more dangerous than first order barriers. So, second order barriers influence teachers' teaching methods, their organizational styles, their management styles, their assessment procedures, and they also influence their uncertainty of relevance in technology. So, teachers might be thinking, why is this even relevant? Like, why should I try this program? Why should I try using this? New software in my classroom. So it influences every part of teaching that they are using in their classroom. It also influences the teacher's decision, to use technology by making them insecure or doubtful of their abilities or the worth of using that technology. So, similarly, it's second order barriers stop teachers of using these tools before they've even gotten started. So, similar to first order barriers. But these, I feel, again, are so much more dangerous because they make the teachers doubt themselves, their abilities, and the technology before they even get started. So, if we removed all the first order barriers, would teachers use technology? Why or why not? So, I put in three different reasons or three different explanations. So, first, the teachers, or my thought where it was like, yes, it would definitely make teachers use technology because Ertmer said, for example, teachers who have already redefined traditional teacher student roles, who have organized their classrooms into multidisciplinary teams focused on authentic problems, and who have embraced alternative assessment practices may find that technology fits well into their existing classroom cultures. I could not believe that this quote was written in 1999 and not something recent because this is exactly what I tell my teachers that I work with now. that if you are flipping your classroom, if you are changing the roles, if you are letting your students do more of the talking than you do, if you're letting them do more of the exploration, then you are going to be so good at using technology because you're allowing and empowering your students to do all of the heavy lifting. So I think those teachers who are already trying new things, they're definitely going to keep trying to integrate technology. Then you've got the maybes. So, still adding technology to the mix may cause logistical and technical problems to emerge that weren't evident before. So, this is saying that yes, they might still use um, technology integration. They might still try it, but things could pop up along the way that they say, maybe not, or yes, we're going to keep trying things. So, this is where they're kind of iffy. And then I don't like when people just say straight up no. I can do yes, but or yes, or. So, for example, if a teacher came into my library and said, hey, do you have this, this, and this? Instead of saying no, I could say, I'm sorry, I don't have that, but I can find a way to get it for you. Or, but let's find a way to let's find something similar that can work in the classroom. So, if we removed all the first order barriers, yes, but or yes, and, those who choose to begin with limited knowledge may initially provide restricted student use until they have mastered skills themselves, or they may empower students to become classroom technology experts and then encourage them to share their expertise with both peers and teachers. Again, how was this written in 1999? This sounds like it was something that I could have heard at a conference yesterday, because student voice and choice is the biggest thing right now that's going to empower our students. If we allow them to try new things and fail in a safe place, they're going to be empowered and they're going to learn more. But if teachers say, I don't know how to use this yet, let me learn some more, then we'll try using it. But instead, if they say, hey, I don't know how to use this program or this tool, let's figure it out together, and then you guys show me how we can use it in the classroom, that is so much more empowering for the students than the other way around. So rather than having the students wait, now you're having the students be a partner in their own learning. And I think that's when it's really important to see your own second and first order barriers happening and be able to change those. So that's just my thoughts on that. A few more thoughts I had was the quote again about um, still adding technology to the mix may cause those barriers to pop up that weren't there before. But this suggests that the first and second order barriers may never be eliminated completely. Rather, they will continue to ebb and flow throughout the evolutionary integration process. So, this is going to be again where those teachers who are willing to try new things are going to be successful. Because if they're trying things and again the students are seeing them fail, or they're seeing them try something that didn't work out so well, and having those conversations with their students, then the students are going to be more empowered to see how we can try new things and how we can be accepting of our own mistakes, as well as the whole learning process of how the teacher is trying to integrate new things. So this is allowing the teacher to see, yeah, we've eliminated one thing, but something else popped up and now we tried this. So it's kind of the process of action research, where we're trying new things and we're fixing along the way. And then I wanted to bring up, at some points, first order barriers will be at the forefront, and another times, second order barriers will be present. So things will change as the technology integration is happening. Okay, so causal relations. What is the causal relation between first order, second order barriers and technology integration? So I thought a really great example from figure 2 was this map of how all of the different things that influence technology integration are influenced. So the arrows kind of go around and into each other. So some of the main things that technology integration is directly influenced by are the teacher's attitudes and beliefs towards using technology, the teacher's knowledge and skills, the institution, and their resources. But if you look at the figure, you can see teachers' attitude and beliefs are directly influenced by subject culture and by assessment and by the institution and by the knowledge and skills. But knowledge and skills are also influenced by the teacher attitudes and belief. And then the subject culture is influenced by assessments An institution is also influenced by assessments, and resources are also influenced by the institution. So everything connects. So I believe that if a school has a really great administrative staff and they can start eliminating those first order barriers in the beginning, they can change that school culture and make it a more positive place to where those first order barriers are going to be eliminated and they can work on those second order barriers and then have an awesome technology integration in their school. I also wanted to include table 1 from the Hue and Brush article because a lot of what we focused on in these articles and in this presentation are the barriers, which I feel are the negative things that can keep us from using technology in a classroom. And I thought that this table was really important because it has a list of all the barriers on the left and strategies that could try and fix those or try and eliminate them on the right. So you can see as a lack of technology, introducing 1 or 2 per subject area. For a lack of time, teachers collaborating. For skills, professional development. So for each of these barriers, there are strategies to help eliminate those barriers. So I thought this was really important to include because if we're going to talk about problems, then we also need to be solution oriented. And finally, in my opinion, I think that second order barriers are more difficult to address because it is really easy to change a school's resources. So if a school gets money, they can invest in training, they can invest in computers, they can invest in resources, they can invest in programs or in Chromebooks for their students. And the same would go for a classroom and its teacher. So if a classroom can be changed by its teacher, whether the teacher is learning about different tools, different resources, going to really great professional development, then they can influence what they're going to do. But trying to change their mind is so hard because they're more personal. Those secondary barriers are more personal and deeply ingrained. And I specifically think of teachers I've worked with, but I don't want to say it is impossible because I have a success story from the last school that I worked at. There was a veteran teacher who had been teaching for a really long time. She had just turned 50 years old and she had no clue how to integrate technology in her classroom. And I taught her one tool. I taught her Flipgrid. And by the end of that first semester of us working together and collaborating, she was using Flipgrid for everything. She was teaching people at her church how to use it. She was using it at home. She was having home conversations with it so that her family could talk to each other when they were all so busy. And she was incorporating it into her classroom so her students were also being empowered to share their own work and their own voice. And so it it was a really long and hard journey to get her there to feel comfortable enough to use the tool, and then we started learning about other tools and how she could use those in her classroom, but it wasn't impossible. So I do believe second order barriers are the harder one, but they can be worked with. So I just always like to end on that positive note because this was kind of a negative presentation talking about all the barriers, but I do want to remind my audience that things aren't impossible and things can always change. Here are my references for the articles that I referenced. And thank you so much for watching this video and following along the presentation with me. If you have any questions, my email, my social media, and my websites are on the screen. Thanks. Bye.